Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I can see everybody joining in, which is great. We'll get things kicked off now. In a minute, just give everybody a minute to join. All right, quick kickoff now. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our webinar today, where we'll be discussing the topic of leading remote engineering teams. My name is Jill Flett and I'm a marketing manager here at Pluralsight, and I will be your host for this session, and I'm joined by our Director of Sales, TJ McNichols. Welcome, TJ. This session will take about 40 minutes. TJ will take you through pragmatic steps to help you thrive as a remote engineering team and show you how to incorporate objective data into your development process. We will then have time for a Q&A session at the end, so drop any questions that you have into the chat while the demo is taking place. So I'll now hand you over to TJ, who will kick us off. Thanks, TJ.
Very good. Thank you, Jill. Welcome, everyone. I appreciate you all making time here in our busy schedules, and I hope everyone is remaining safe and healthy here at home. I'll begin sharing my screen. We have a presentation that is roughly 25 to 30 minutes, depending on how much coffee I've had here, how quickly I'll speak through it. But at the end, we'll try to leave plenty of time for questions. We won't need the whole hour, so hopefully we can give everybody some time back in their day as well. So once again, welcome existing Flow customers, existing Pluralsight Skills customers, and then those who are brand new. You do not need to necessarily know the product in order to gain value out of this session. With that said, why don't we begin? The theme here is managing remote engineering teams. Obviously, the switch due to COVID, but then also a lot of organizations that are already distributed, or organizations that will continue to be distributed through the end of the year and possibly beyond. Obviously, that's a lot of interesting business conversations that are occurring right now as we realize some of the benefits that working from home have given not just our teams, but to the business. So those themes we'll cover as well when we discuss metrics for understanding and truly leading engineering teams. And then a deeper dive into key use cases for optimizing remote teams and the individuals associated with those teams. And then lastly, some time at the end for QA. Those familiar with Pluralsight probably know this slide well by now. The software development disconnect, we like to visualize historically how engineering organizations, software development organizations are evaluated. And really it boils down to, hey, what did we ship and did it ship on time? It's the only two things the business can see. So therefore it's the only two things the business can measure. And if it's the only things we're measuring, it's the only things we care about. Well, Flow begs the question, what about everything else happening below the surface? Everything else below the surface here that's absolutely required to deliver up on those items on top. Meaningful visibility into these workflows, especially now more than ever when we're not able to just look over the pod or have an in-person daily stand-up or walk around and ask if anybody needs help. What we're talking about is two themes. One, being able to identify and remove impediments for the team. Figure out when the team or the individuals are stuck to then begin that question of why. Is it unclear specs from product? Is it scope creep? Is it a skills gap? Has someone just been running hard at the same problem for 2 weeks and just needs a new ticket? Is it unnecessary meetings that's bogging down our day too much? Let's figure out what is preventing our teams from doing what they love, which is building, creating, and collaborating. The other side of that is then how we interface more broadly with the business, how we communicate, especially to non-technical stakeholders who have an opinion or a say about what happens in development, but may not really know exactly what it's all about. Being able to interface with them in a consumable manner becomes really empowering, especially when ultimately correlating effort done to meaningful business value or customer value. So the impact of moving to a decentralized work format here on the left, in-person, water cooler talk, the in-person stand-ups, in-person one-on-ones, that group collaboration, especially maybe if we're even pair program or mob programming together in person, opportunistic ability to validate requirements to discuss approach. Obviously moving over to the right, things are remote, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, especially in software development. Engineers now have the autonomy to organize their own day and freedom to structure their own workflows, which many times produces or leads to higher productivity. Obviously, commute times and things like that are helpful. We can, in theory, just kind of roll out of bed and begin typing. But some of the downside is that those individuals who need more structure or that are potentially newer to the org or less mature in their career really want or need that structure and need to feel connected still to the team and the business. And as a manager, that's really our role to ensure that that support is given. So what we'll talk about here is high-level gauges of how it's going. So in green, being able to identify if our productive throughput and impact is relatively at the same level, if it's at 95% or higher. Churn, will provide definitions for these metrics for those of you that are new. Churn, rewrites to your recent code, if this is still less than 30% of code delivered, that's a good sign. That means that we're still within that healthy target of rewrites and forward progress. Things will turn yellow when we notice pull request response time increasing by 20%. What we've noticed with our customers is that during the initial switch to working remotely, this number spiked. Pull request response time got slower. But as people got set up and really just over the course of a couple of days or that first week, we saw this number fall back into a normal range. If that's not occurring, this is giving you the signals as a leader of where you should be spending your time. As a manager, you probably have very, very little free time. If you only have 20 minutes in a day free available, what you want to ask yourself is, how can I support the team? Where am I going to be most beneficial? Flow is going to identify these opportunities so you can drill in of the indications where the team is stuck or process is breaking down. Then lastly, in red, if unreviewed pull requests have increased, this meaning pull requests being merged into master without another set of eyes or comment or approval from our peer, self-merged pull requests, cycle time increasing 20%, or those churn levels, again, a recent rewrites of your own work increasing by more than 30%. So questions that we aim to answer here in the session: how the current release compares to a pre-COVID release. That's probably a question your leaders are asking you, I would imagine. Are we doing more? Are we doing less? What truly is the impact of COVID? How are we responding? Being able to answer that in an objective, fact-based manner using data becomes really empowering, especially when needing to depoliticize certain situations. Has total productive throughput changed? Are there spikes in rework? Are some team members notably changing their work patterns? Now, if they are, it's probably not on purpose. It's not like their engineers are looking to fundamentally use this as an opportunity to change the way that they develop software. Quite the opposite. This is probably an outside influence that's having a negative impact on how they like to organize their day and find themselves to be most productive. So let's take a look at what might be causing that. Are code reviews, response times increasing? Are more pull requests going through unreviewed? And then lastly, where is the code review bottlenecking, and is it through a small number of reviewers? So we will walk through these 3 sessions before leading to Q&A, looking at a high level of quarterly and annual trends, talking about effective remote meetings, integrating data into your existing ceremonies, and then really drilling down into granular analysis to get a ground level truth of team dynamics that are occurring. Quarterly and annual trends, what we're looking at is our code fundamental KPIs, active coding days, any day where a team or an individual contributes code, commits per day, this is the number, the frequency of commits occurring on those active days, impact. Our Flow customers on the call know this one well. This is a proprietary metric of Flow's designed to measure complexity alongside quantity. I hope I'm not offending anybody in saying that we think simply counting lines of code is a bit silly, certainly archaic, and not a true representation of an engineer's work. So we've created this measure to say, regardless of size, what is the cognitive loaded complexity being submitted or changed within the code base? And then lastly, efficiency, the percentage of code that's making its way into production without modification. Again, that healthy balance. You don't want 100% efficiency. That means that we're sacrificing speed for precision, or maybe we're not reviewing the work as thoroughly as we should. So that healthy balance of let's make the necessary modifications, encourage forward progress, but ensure that our work is not being done in vain. Again, being able to set this by 90-day and 180-day work patterns, being able to see this trend over time, pretty graphs and charts with arrows potentially to the up and right, the things executives love to consume, but then being able to then drill down by team, and then in more team-centric views, being able to drill from the team into the individuals. The idea here is that we're able to standardize these metrics, unlike historical ways of measuring like story points, which one are estimations, but two very much team specific, and almost impossible to compare apples to apples because the team size, the project complexity, the number of points, the area of the code base, the tenure of the team, etc. Flow is designed to do away with those team specifics, regardless of those factors. Somebody's ability to make frequent contributions to the code base should not be impacted. So we allow easy comparison across large organizations to get that general benchmarking and team health understanding. We have a similar set of KPIs for code review and collaboration. You see here things like responsiveness and receptiveness. How receptive am I to the feedback that I'm receiving? Unreviewed pull requests, the percentage of PRs that are being merged into master without review. And then as a reviewer, how quickly am I providing feedback? What is my influence when I'm providing that feedback? Again, regardless of what a team is working on, the project specifications, their skill level, the area of the code base, their ability to provide timely feedback to their peers or ensure all of our work is being reviewed should not be impacted. So those of you that are new to Flow, what you're probably noticing by now, what we are getting at is the development process. We differ from code quality. We're quite complementary to code quality tools or CI/CD, Jenkins, pipeline, accelerate metrics, DevOps. All of that's fantastic, and we complement that. But those are really our outputs. What we're looking at is the team dynamics that lead to either successful code or areas of improvement. So what this actually looks like, where this becomes applicable, again, through the lens of remote working, is our daily stand-up. Our traditional Scrum daily stand-up, we go around the circle, 10, 15 minutes. Hey, what are you working on? Oh, same thing as yesterday. You need any help? Nope, I'm good. Okay, cool. Next. That's not terribly effective. By introducing data and the actual code level into that conversation becomes really, really impactful, especially in a remote world where it gives people, the individuals, an opportunity to connect with the team and also to discuss their work. So here you have Charlie. These are the commits that Charlie made yesterday, the work focus of those commits, whether it was the percentages of new work versus refactoring, helping others and churn. And what we're getting here is giving Charlie really the opportunity to discuss exactly what he was working on yesterday, an empowering moment for somebody to take ownership of their work, but then also in collaboration. That could create interesting opportunities for Alan or Chris. Oh yeah, you know what? I was working in that area of the code base 3 months ago, or I was working on a similar problem, and here's what I learned. Just by surfacing this visibility of what we're actually working on is able to have a really meaningful impact, but more so than ever, it ensures that individuals are not on an island in moving to their living room, that they're not just left there wondering if they're doing good, if they're helping the team, if they're in the hot seat with their manager. Let's just open this up and create visibility for our work as a positive thing for healthy development practices. Daily stand-up as well. Let's take a deeper dive into open pull requests. Flow identifies pull requests that are still open or closed or already merged, however you want to sort the data, but really identifying high activity pull requests that have very lively discussion. We want to be able to quickly drill into that and get an understanding of the tone of the discussion, make sure that it is in fact positive. But again, this could be areas where the team is stuck, where there's scope creep or specs changing, or just maybe disagreement, or just a great opportunity for collaboration. Let's highlight that. Again, as a manager, let's get an understanding of what is taking up my team's the most of their time, and let's have that conversation. Long-running pull requests that have been open for an unusually long period of time. We have KPIs that will show you the median time to close in your organization, and if that's 4 or 5 hours, the question becomes, why has this pull request been open for 4 to 5 weeks? Being able to highlight that and say, team, are you waiting? Are you stuck? Are you blocked? Can I help? Or is this ready to be merged? And then lastly, unreviewed pull request. PRs that have been open for any period of time that are yet to be picked up for review by our peers. Again, more effective daily stand-ups. Maybe there's a handful of PRs that were open yesterday. Okay, no big deal. Let's just visualize that and make sure they get assigned out as a matter of courtesy or respect to the individual who has raised their hand, who's done the work and has raised their hand and is now tapping their foot hours, days, weeks to receive that review. What we've noticed in that, though, in the move to working remotely, a lot of these have got lost in the shuffle. Obviously, there's immediate business impact and we're leaving business value on the table. Sure, that's obvious, but really the way that we like to position it as a benefit, again, a matter of courtesy or respect to the individual who has done this work and now, for whatever reason, it has gone under the radar and has become stale. We want to identify that, pick that up, and ensure forward progress. Flow will identify where these areas are in your daily stand-up. Oh, pardon me. Sprint retrospective. Again, following a traditional 2-week sprint, we've got the team in the room. We've pulled up our flow reports and we see these KPIs like time to resolve, time and hours for when a pull request is open to when it's eventually merged, cycle time, or time to first comment, time and hours from when that pull request is open to when it's initially picked up for review by the team. Again, that costly wait state to the business, but more so to the individual. What you're able to actually do is drill into the histogram. So when we talk about potential, maybe, buzzwords like inspect and adapt or continuous improvement, what does that actually mean? Well, Flow is going to enable you to say, look, our median time to resolve PRs was 1 hour, and that's fantastic. But what about this subset that took more than 48 hours? You can click right into the histogram and see that subset of pull requests. So as a team, being able to get a better understanding of the underlying characteristics of response time and comment levels. And then when drilling down, have that conversation again of what were you waiting on? As an agile coach or a scrum master, I want to be able to say to the team, what can I do to enable your success? And if it's just because there's a hardware issue in working remotely, or there's a fundamental difference now between time zones and collaboration patterns, let's figure those out and fix those. One-on-one with your manager, so reporting up into the org. We offer a previous period comparison. Here in the 3 gray bars are the previous, or I'm sorry, I should say here in the 3 blue bars are the most recent 3-week period, and in the gray bars are the 3 weeks prior to that. Really what we're talking about is a pre and post COVID comparison, being able to say definitively, we've dropped off this much, but we're back in the saddle and we're improving again, and being able to really calculate increase or decrease in things that matter to the broader business, like productive throughput and active coding days, the things that lead to shipping more, shipping on time, shipping with less bugs. When we change this dynamic to one-on-ones with your developers, really the benefit is down to them of what is preventing you from building, creating, and collaborating. Many of you, I'm sure, are familiar with the Stack Overflow Engineer Survey. Every single year, they draw a direct correlation between active coding days and job satisfaction. As engineers, we say we are fundamentally happiest when we're building, creating. So as a manager, we're not looking to come down and ask someone to do more or go faster or question them on why they're not doing more. Really, the question is, in this switch to remote, it seems like your patterns have changed. Are you stuck? Can I help you? Where are you spending your time? Where do you want to be spending your time? And maybe you're uncovering some family issues or some dynamics that are occurring in a personal life, and you can help be supportive as a manager in that role. But maybe there's just very simple process or skills fixes that can be addressed. Before moving on, I want to discuss this review radar. It's one of my favorite reports here in Flow. This is knowledge distribution within your organization. On the x-axis, what you see is the number of users reviewed. On the y-axis is the number of pull requests. In hovering over Sigmund, what you see is a visualization of his distribution of knowledge. These are all of the individuals he has collaborated with during this period of time, whatever period of time you've selected, and at what frequency. The anti-knowledge silo, the anti-buzz factor. What you don't notice down here, there's a very small blue dot. In hovering over that, what you notice is that this individual is not collaborating with anybody, or maybe just one other person in high frequency. Sure, that could be a review buddy rubber stamping, hey, check the box for me, I'll check it for you. or sometimes far more interesting, and I'd love for those of you on the call to be able to see this in your own data, especially at larger organizations. What we notice is that sometimes these people down here in the bottom left are some of our most brilliant engineers, our subject matter experts, our most tenured engineers. What happens as an anti-pattern of that is that as a subject matter expert, first off, you're kind of heads down at your desk solving really crazy, difficult problems in a really beautiful way and just working really hard. What that actually does is prohibits your ability to more broadly interact with the team. Nobody can review your code. You're the only one who knows that area of the code base. What a wonderful topic for one-on-one with your developers, a coaching opportunity to say to that person, hey, look, first off, I'm going to start handing you some more tickets outside of your domain so you continue to grow. But more importantly, I'm going to challenge you over the next days to move, over the next 90 days to move from the bottom left up to the upper right here where Sigmund is, because you are one of our most brilliant engineers. You have so much knowledge to give. So not just as career coaching, but being able to talk about this as a benefit to the entire team, to help the entire team grow. And those subject matter experts, those brilliant engineers, those tenured engineers, they want to help. They do. You guys know this. They're fundamentally helpers, but sometimes they just get caught up too much in their own work. A very quick visualization of this shows them, well, wait a minute, that's not the engineer who I think I am or who I want to be, and be able to course correct. You're going to notice this more and more in the work from remote, people that are used to sharing knowledge in person, shoulder tapping, water cooler talk, quick whiteboard sessions, pair programming. All of that was occurring without documentation into the code base. Now that we've moved remotely, it is imperative that we have artifacts of that knowledge sharing in the code base. That needs to be done through the pull request, through your Git host. And with that, we want to ensure that proper levels are occurring. This graph will tell you exactly where those distribution centers exist within your organization. Okay, everybody, we have about 5 minutes left. I know I'm going through this quickly, but I intend to be respectful of everybody's time here, as I know we're all quite busy. So let's spend our remaining time drilling into granular analysis. So here's our work log report. Oh, pardon me. I know I'm flipping around. My mouse is not liking me. Work log. What we're showing you here is code commits, pair commits for mobbing and pairing, merge commits. And then moving over in blue is PR activity, pull requests being open and closed, PRs being commented on, and then ticket activity via our Jira or Rally integrations. So at its core, what we're showing you is a detailed breakdown of what's occurring, when, where, by whom. More importantly, the interconnectivity of the type of work. But then also what we'll notice is different commit patterns. Some people like to save all of their work up into very large commits, where other people like to make many small frequent commits throughout the day. This enables you as a leader to establish these best practices, or like a lot of our Flow customers have done this in a self-managed environment and enabled the team to determine what healthy development looks like. We don't have an opinion on that at Flow. We are process agnostic, tech stack agnostic to whatever culture may exist within your org. However, we do believe that there is value in normalizing this behavior, whatever it may be, so that you don't have 50 engineers fundamentally doing the same job 50 different ways, or at scale, which takes time to establish these benchmarks and slow to move. However, let's ensure we don't have 5,000 engineers fundamentally doing the same job 5,000 different ways. Yes, enable stylistic differences and preferences, but fundamentally, we should have an understanding of, is it okay to save all your work up into one single commit every 2 to 3 days, or save it up right till the end of the sprint, which maybe is going to cause a delayed release or introduce bugs into the into production, versus individuals that are making small frequent commits, especially now more than ever, creating visibility for their work, not for their manager, but for their peers. Ensuring that we're pushing that code off of the local machine, pushing to server in case of a hard drive crash. But right now, since we are physically disconnected, it's more important than ever to remain connected as a team. And if we can talk about these dynamics, drilling down into specific commit behaviors, and normalizing those becomes quite empowering for all of those involved. And then lastly, drill down into a day in the life summary. Typically, we're looking at the 9 to 5 hours and talking about, well, gosh, this person's committing at 11 p.m. at night. What's forcing them to coming back online after putting the kids down? Is there's something fundamentally blocking them during normal business hours? Are they shouldering too much of the team's work? Are they a risk a flight risk because maybe they're getting burnt out? Those use cases are different now because, again, we have that autonomy to organize our day, and we should really be thinking more so about, is the work getting done in a healthy manner? Are we still shipping and meeting deadlines and writing, and creating and building beautiful products? Those should be the most important questions. And then beyond that, drilling into the autonomy of someone's day becomes quite unique. Sprint breakdown analysis, being able to drill into this by 2-week summaries, and being able to see the natural ebb and flow across a sprint or release cycle. I promised you I'd get into, oh my God, that's driving me crazy. I'm so sorry. I promised you that I would get into definitions here for these new work focuses. So I will do that now with our remaining time. New work is brand new code that does not update or edit any existing code. Legacy refactor, modifications to code that is older than 3 weeks old. So if as a team or as an individual, or if we want to organize by code repository or group code repositories together to represent a certain product or feature, we can do all of that directly in the dashboard. By the way, all of these graphs and charts that we're viewing are automatically populated and calculated on your behalf. We're never going to make an engineer document their work to appease flow. That's the antithesis of the process of the platform. So with refactoring, if we're modifying that older code, AKA paying down technical debt, we want to be able to turn that buzzword into something more meaningful. When is that occurring? Where? At what frequency? By whom? To be able to speak to technical debt pay down more definitively. Helping others, modifications to somebody else's recent code, and then code churn. Modifications to your own recent code, so now defined by less than 3 weeks old. As a developer, if I write 100 lines of code on Monday and I come in on Tuesday and I scrap 80 lines during the pull request, okay, that's perfectly normal. We intend to give the engineer the credit they deserve for doing that work on Tuesday, the 80 lines of deletion. However, we're specifically categorizing it as work that doesn't make its way into production. Again, churn is normal, it's healthy, it's required. It's about the healthy balance of rewrites with forward progress, and then noticing when churn spikes against the team's average. Advanced trends into collaboration patterns and response times, being able to see a visualization of who Jones here is reviewing and vice versa, who is reviewing Taylor's work, and then being able to drill into an individual for these advanced KPIs. And then these use cases of when churn or rework is increasing or spiking. So what we talked about is churn being normal and healthy, and it is. Teams, individuals, code bases can all churn at different levels within a business, and that's okay. But what we want to notice is that when it starts to spike, that change is almost always a negative impact to the engineer. That means somebody is stuck. Again, if somebody is stuck in their living room as opposed to their office, it compounds that challenge significantly. So what we want to do is drill into where this spike is occurring. We notice Rob here is making up 18% of all of the churn done by the team within this period of time. Okay, so let's then drill into Rob. What we notice is that now 60% of all Rob's own work is churn. Let's then drill down into the specific commits to figure out where this is occurring so that we can have those conversations of are you stuck? And how can I help? If it's a skills gap, that's where we link into Pluralsight. If it's a new language and he's just starting to write and go, and that's the area of the code base he's in, great. Let's give him the ability to go and beef up his learning in Go directly and assess his skill IQ directly in the skills part of the Pluralsight platform. Flow will show you efficiencies by language so you can have actionable learning opportunities to go to justify your learning investment, but then also more importantly, ensuring that it's having the intended result. Drilling into code level data. All of this is interactive back to your code base, so you can click on the specific commit and if you want during one-on-one, go line by line in a coaching opportunity. Again, as a manager, how can I be most effective and apply my help and knowledge and time and resources most effectively into the team? I want to be able to drill into these specific areas so that I have something meaningful for Rob and I to work on during our one-on-one. Is output per release changing? Comparing March 26th sprint to the April 10th, showing that the team has had a decrease in impact from 546 to 479, right? A 12% decrease in output. That's okay. That could just be given the makeup of the sprint, the number of story points, the complexity, or that could be our initial change of working to remote as we kind of get settled in the brave new world. But we would like to see that increase and be able to have that conversation with the team. And then lastly, I believe this is our last slide here as we reach the half hour. Is anybody notably changing their work patterns? So looking at Chelsea here, commits per day, she is one of our highest contributors, constantly making contributions to the code base, but not just frequently making code-based contributions, but following that pattern of small frequent commits and the benefits that we talked about, encouraging forward progress, making sure our work is smaller for review, making it easier to identify and remove bugs from production. But what we've noticed is that during when COVID hits, this is falling off. It's not because Chelsea's slacking. It's not because she's lazy or using this, the boss isn't looking, while the cat's away, the mice will play. It's not that, because that's not how engineers operate. Engineers want to work. They want to build. We are the math geeks, right? We are the math tribe. We love solving difficult problems. What this means is that Chelsea is most likely very, very frustrated. There is something occurring that is changing her work patterns that is preventing her from doing the things that she loves doing. As a manager, I want to be able to check in and start getting down to what that ground level truth is, so we can begin fixing that to Chelsea's benefit. Again, reaction time. Chelsea is typically very quick in providing feedback to her peers, but recently here towards the middle and end of March, that has changed. It is spiking. It's now taking her 12 hours, a full 12 hours to get back to review from the team. That could be something as simple as the way that the people she is responsible for, time zones have changed drastically. And when they submit the work, it's the middle of the night and she's not able to pick it up until the morning. Okay, but then that's a blocker to the people that are asking for review, who are now waiting all day and night and can't progress on that particular work, that PR, until the next day. We want to think about that as managers and make sure we have proper team alignment. Very simple fixes as ensuring people are now still in time zone to make sure that we're efficiently reviewing and moving code into production as fast as possible. Okay, I promise this is the last one. I remember now. Are more pull requests going through unreviewed? Lowest hanging fruit for process improvement. The percentage of pull requests that are being merged or approved without comment or that approval button from a peer, either self-merged or done so without even a simple thumbs up or looks good to me. Again, lowest level of process improvement. So quick to start on, so quick to identify. And a lot of times it's not the end of the world. It's very small changes or things that are not risky. But if that's the case, we want to be able to drill into when that's occurring and just be able to reestablish that best practice or that expectation with the team. Obviously, this is where introducing bugs to the code base, this is where this is occurring within your organization. For businesses that need to be mindful about, shipping more, shipping on time, shipping with less bugs. Again, those things that the business sees above the water in the iceberg analogy. This is where we ensure that behavior on a process level, on a team dynamic, is actually occurring. So a recap of the questions that we have answered, hopefully during this session. How current release compares to pre-COVID releases. Has total productive throughput changed? Are there spikes in rework and churn? And if so, how do we drill into where those are occurring to determine why? Are some team members notably changing their work patterns? And if so, why? Are code review response times increasing? And if so, how do we help? How do we help reestablish that and support the team? Because again, these are all negative impacts to the individuals. Are more pull requests going through unreviewed? And lastly, is code review bottlenecking through a small number of reviewers? Is there 2 or 3 people doing all of the review and knowledge distribution? And if so, one, that could be the knowledge silos or bus factors. But 2, that means that that's probably not fair to those individuals, that they're the only source of truth to go to. And anytime you need help, oh, call Kelly or call Dave, right? We want to be able to identify other people who are brilliant and have knowledge to share and encourage them to participate more in the process. So the call to action here is for those of you who are not Flow customers. If you're a Pluralsight Skills customer and you want help answering these questions in your own organization, or if you're brand new and would like a demo of the product, we'd be happy to provide that. We have 2 different scenarios: our cloud solution, SaaS, hosted by Pluralsight, fully secure, SOC compliant, ISO 27001, GDPR, adaptation tests, all the fun stuff. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to walk in to large organizations and be successful. Or for more security-minded organizations, we have our server product, which is hosted behind your own firewall, on-prem, fully air-gapped with no connectivity to the internet. We will reach out to you afterwards with a recording of this session. If there is interest in seeing a deeper dive demo or plugging in your own data, each one of these scenarios come with a no-cost 30-day evaluation. So no cost, no commitment to be able to plug in your data. Again, all those graphs and charts that we viewed are automatically populated and calculated on your behalf and maintained in real time every 2 to 3 hours moving forward to ensure real-time visibility into your teams. With that said, I thank you very, very much. I'll hand this back over to Jill to open up Q&A.
That's great. Thank you very much, TJ. I think you gave us a lot to think about there in managing teams in our new normal as it is. I'll kick off with a first question, but if anyone wants to put Q&A questions into the Q&A box, we'll get to them. So just the first question: have you seen some teams increase their metrics now that they are working remotely?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, this is certainly not meant to be all negative. Actually, a lot of our customers have seen increases in moving to remotely. To be fair, they've seen that typically with their more seasoned engineers, tenured engineers, people that don't necessarily need a whole lot of structure. But really what we've noticed is that developers who love to just throw on their headphones and jam out code uninterrupted for 6 hours a day, this is wonderful. This creates that opportunity. There's less interruptions. They're in a more comfortable environment and they get to do what they love. That actually leads to productivity increases. However, what we have seen is that there is been a lot of shakeup and disruption, and some of our more junior devs or people that just frankly want or deserve more structure in their workforce have found this to be a challenge. So again, the opportunity here is not just to identify where you can help, but then also highlight some of those positive workflows that are occurring in your organization, which certainly for companies at scale are most definitely happening.
Okay, that's great. There doesn't seem to be any questions in the, oh, we have one, sorry, Josh. Just get to that.
Oh, is that from George? Yes, George, we will send you a mail out with a recording of this session, as well as information on how to connect with your Pluralsight account rep to do a demo with the product, and then eventually set up your own evaluation with your own data if that's of interest. So yes, George, thank you for that. We will be in touch with all attendees, and not that you're here, but those who weren't able to attend will get a recording of the session as well.
Yeah, I think there's no more questions in the chat or the Q&A box, so I think we'll give people back some time in their day. I want to thank everybody for attending, and thank you, TJ, for going through that with us. That was really excellent. And as you said, the recording will be available, and if you have any further questions, just get in contact with your Pluralsight point of contact. So thank you very much for everybody for joining, and have a good day.
Thanks, Jill. Bye now.